Hi, the other day I was watching all these YouTube videos on the latest camera gears like the Sony a1, the Fuji GFX 100S, it's a medium format camera, as well as the Sony FX6. These are amazing camera and I wish I own it. However, I realized after going through my closet of cameras, I don't need them. In fact, the camera that I have is suffice to do a lot of things that I want to do in the next 5 years. So let's talk about it right now. All right, so yeah, I went through my closet with all my cameras. There's about 10 of them. And as I go through each one of them, I actually test them out. I try to optimize the best setting for that camera. And I realized there's no way I'm going to sell this camera. I could, do more with this. Let me illustrate. So I have this Sony a5000. And I think I made a video on this already. But here we have two Sony a5000. Notice how it's modified to fit my needs. So I built this myself. The handle, for example, the plastic handle, it's actually didn't cost me more than $5. It's, I think, less than that, including the screw and all that. So $5. And then of course I realized that the limit to the Sony a5000 is that its audio is not that great when you record like more than 2 meters away. So I decided, why don't I hook up a good audio system to it. For example, this one has the Zoom H1 and this one has a Sony recorder, and each one of them has ability to hook up mic in jack. And another important thing is that they have a very large button for recording, so I can press at the same time the audio and then the video, and then I'll sync that in post and I'll have amazing audio system, whether I use a wireless lav or wired lav. So there we go. At 1080p Full HD, I can record a short film or independent film on YouTube, which can look very professional. Cost me a couple $100 each. So you could do that. So I realized, nope, I'm not going to sell these gears. They're great for making short films. I can give this to my son and daughter and they can make their own films and they can learn a lot from that. Then I have this Sony a6100, which, by the way, if you really want a good video camera, you don't need the Sony a7s3. Just get the Sony a6100 and start film with that. I can guarantee you 99% of the time, with exception to when you're doing run and gun and there's a lot of movement, then you would not want to use this camera because you can see that the wavy images. Okay, so as long as it's more a drama, slow type of movie, a lot of dialogues, not too much camera movement, I think this camera does the job. Beautiful color signs coming out of that. It does have a flip up screen as well, and also has a built-in audio in here. So for filmmaking on YouTube or even for film festival, I think this is great. Now some people say, well, it only can do 8-bit for 2.2 if you have external monitor, or 420 record internally. You know what? As long as you control your environment, your lighting, your composition, and don't do too much in post, like for example color grading and all that, then this camera can do that. There's no magic in adjusting in post, because I can tell you right now, if you didn't do it properly in the setting, you're gonna have a very hard time adjusting it in post, because it's going to be hard to do that. Okay, it takes more time to play around with your videos using special effects and all that to just edit it out. So just be aware that when you're recording anything, you do it right the first time. So I would highly recommend the Sony a6100 for filmmaker as well as photographer. A great camera, and it's quite affordable. That would probably be the first camera. If you're starting out, you want guarantee for bang for your buck, this would be the camera for that. Now, even though Sony a7R3 may be, according to Sony, outdated because it's 3 years old, Jason Lanier one of the professional photographer, would say this camera is still the best camera out there for the price versus performance. It was rated in DxO Mark website. This is rated as 100% or 100 compared to, let's say, even the Sony a7s3, which is only 86 in terms of overall from its image quality. So we have an amazing photography at 42 megapixel, and also the video is not shabby at all. Very good. Up there and better, of course, than the Sony a6100 because it's a full frame. So much you can do. You can zoom in, zoom out just by a press of a button. The 4K is still amazing. So this camera is not outdated. The a7R3, perfect camera for photography for sure, and supplement that with the video. You can make a short film or independent film with this one. The Panasonic GH4 is still relevant because of the flip-up screen, can do 4K output at 422 10-bit. And I think if you have a proper lighting in the setting, I think this camera is still definitely a great camera for doing short films. I think the only issue with this camera is that I find it a little bit too sharp. Maybe I have to tone it down a bit more to make it softer. But other than that, this camera, I think, and you can check other YouTubers, they do use GH4 for making short films. And I think for YouTube videos, even want to do professionally, making films on YouTube, this is the camera as well. The autofocus may not be the best, but you know, most of the setup that you do, you want to do manual focus anyway. Good camera, even for 2021 and beyond. I like this camera a lot. I actually use this camera to do my lab demonstration. I think this is still an amazing camera. Of course, the last two that I enjoy the most, and if I'm taking independent film seriously and I'm on budget, well, then I will go with the Fujifilm X-T3 camera. The reason for that is because it has an amazing color science. It does have an F-Log built into that, so if you want to color in post, you can do that. Another thing about it is it can do 10-bit 422, which is ProRes. So you can actually, if you have an external recorder, I mean, like the Ultima Shogun Inferno, then this camera will fit the budget. It's you can get it for under $1,300 US, and I think even if you buy used, you probably can get under $1,000. Yeah, and with this lens that I had, the 18 mils f2, when I was trying to film that, oh man, amazing. Okay, the only, of course, problem is it doesn't have a flip out screen. That's okay. With external monitor that's recording 10-bit 422 anyway, that's probably what you need to film with this camera. And I think this camera can do the job for professional indie film. And lastly, this camera here, my favorite of all, the Sony FX6R. This camera with a updated firmware can shoot 4K 120p at about 6 to 8 seconds. It can do 240 frames per second, full HD, continuous. If you have the external monitor, Ultima Shogun Inferno, this camera can do that. And what I like about this camera, not only can do that 4K 120 frames per second, it can do 60 frames per second continuously. It can do 240 frames per second, full HD continuously. One of the greatest feature that this cam can do is it can do raw CDNG at 4K, and more importantly, the 2K, because when I'm editing in post, it's very smooth with my computer system. So for this type of camera, I would set it to recording in CDNG raw, because it can do 12-bit 444, not 422, but 444, which is the maximum you can do with this type of camera. And I don't think there's any camera out there that could do, other than I think Sigma FP. And if you hook up to the proper external monitor, like I mentioned, the Ultima Shogun Inferno, you now have a system, these two, combined together, and of course a good cinema lens. You are going to make a decent feature film, and that you could be proud of. In fact, you probably just need to get the proper setting, the proper actor who can act your scene, have amazing script, And of course, a good business-minded person, know who to contact, know how to push the button. And I think you're gonna do a good job being able to promote your film. I don't think it's the gear that will get you to the door. It is the film itself. When you see it, people are gonna say, oh, he filmed with the Alexa, or oh, Red, or the Sony A1, or the Fuji GFX 100S. It's more like, wow, this is an amazing story. Wow, the color grade is just great. I love how smooth that is. The latest camera cannot make your film great. It can maybe improve a bit, but the one that you already have, which I think certain one, even the old ones like the Sony FX6R, is more than enough to make any film you can dream of. Know how to edit, know the lighting, know the audio, know all the skills that's needed and required to make that film great. And that's pretty much I would have to say about gears, video gears. People say it doesn't matter. Some people say it matters. I would say it matters, but only the camera that you have in front of you. And you just have to adjust accordingly and just shoot that film. All right? Thanks for watching EducateTube.com.